Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, anybody who identifies as anything other than that, welcome to episode 1 of the Bet on Devin podcast. Hashtag BodPod. Hashtag the Bodfather. It is with great pleasure and, to be honest, a true honor to introduce the first ever guest of Bet on Devin. Now, it just wouldn't make sense to start off a betting show that will hopefully provide winners with a loser. So naturally, I've got not only a multi-time challenge champion, but more importantly, a champion in the game of life. Without further ado, fresh off his dominating win on All Stars 3, a friend, a mentor, an international sex symbol, Mr. Weston Bergmann. Wes, how the hell are you?
Well, well, well. What is going on, everybody? I am so proud to be here. Honored to be with my main guy here on episode 1. I'm ready to shoot the shit. You let me. You're in charge here. I'm just a guest. So.
Well,
But that was a very factual intro.
That's what we like to do here is we like to talk about facts and we like to talk about feel. You know, those are the two big things here. And there's a lot of facts in the sports betting world. There's not too much feel. So I'm hoping to provide a little bit something new here. And obviously the OG challenge legends that will be stopping by as you are, Wes, is going to add a little bit of extra flair. Plus, stay tuned for my suit coat choices, because this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of that. Now, I do want to kick things off just right from the jump with some lava, as you would like to call it, Wes.
Okay, yeah.
And I think the best way to do that is to start with a question really as old as time, and that is your Mount Rushmore of male challengers. I want to know who you think the best 4 challenge players of all time are on the male side of things.
Okay. Well, let's start with me and my ripped days.
Okay.
All right. So
We are taking overall careers here. Yeah, I don't think you can take single seasons.
I can, and I will. So that is one. Next, me in my very mental years.
I see where this is.
All right. Me recently, and then me before I figured out any of the above. I think that I fit all 4 of the heads of the Mount Rushmore. It's Wes. There are no others. It's like I'm tired of talking about the Mount Rushmore, and I want to talk about the Statue of Liberty, and it is Ginger.
Wow, so it's kind of like a Mr. Potato Head of the challenge, where you're just taking your different body parts from your challenge career. So we probably have like baby Wes's legs. That's before you knew anything about it, and then ripped Wes's abs. We'll probably take your recent Wes's mental gameplay, and then just the actual face of you at any point during the challenge. I think that's pretty good.
Exactly.
That's a better question, actually. What's your Mr. Potato Head challenger look like? That's going to be on seasons to come. But to be fair, I was really just setting you up here because the Mount Rushmore of best challengers has been done so many times. To be fair, it's a little bit stale. So what I really want to know, and what I think the people want to know, is what is your Mount Rushmore all-time worst male challengers? And I don't think it's going to be you in 4 different phases in this answer.
Oh no, I'm not in this. Kind of putting me on the spots. But that said, you know me, I like to name names. I very much so dislike people that don't want to say names. So let's see here. Worst 4 guys. Let's go with Nate from the first season you and I did together.
Rivals 3 Nate is pretty bad.
Pretty bad. This is the guy that didn't jump out of the airplane.
0 for 1, first day.
We got Vinny from Fresh Meat 2, who then got kicked off of X's 2 for ripping Mandy's top off.
Okay, yeah, put him in there.
Yeah, he's horrible. We got JG.
Yeah,
like that was Jenna's partner. We had always had these like purposeful layups, but no one had ever used the word layup before. Like so we had done this strategy for years, but it was during he was so perfect at it that that's when we actually named the strategy.
Wow.
So it is named after him. And honestly, like we all would have forgotten about him, but he still to this day has no awareness about the whole situation. Like, I don't even think I don't even want to discuss it, but he'll pop up on Twitter talking shit to this day.
Yeah,
Like,
I've seen it.
um, yeah. And then you, yeah.
So you took the words
Like,
almost right out
let's
of my
talk
mouth
about this.
here, because I was about to say I need to pay homage actually to JG, the original layup, because I am the recipient of that treatment time and time and time again.
Let's discuss. People have forgotten, and I really don't want them to forget how your origin story on the challenge. You got thrown into the very first elimination, and against who was it against?
It
Amanda.
was against Johnny, Riley, and Jess.
So you lost to Jess in your first elimination, and they sent you home all
Yeah,
the way back to America,
yeah,
and then they called you to come back for no reason.
yeah.
Like, they were just that desperate. You had that much time on your hands that you got back on the plane, came back, and it was this draw skull season. You got sent into every single elimination, but you just drew a skull that saved you.
Yes. Now I will force you to remember that it was not only me that was in several of those eliminations, Wes, but also you, to the point where we started nominating ourselves. Um,
I'm just,
so,
I'm just saying. I'm just
so
saying. You are on my Mount Crapmore.
challenge, challenge Mount Crapmore. You heard it here first. I don't think it's ever been done before. I think it's a first here on any podcast, including Bet on Devin. And it's,
I have done it on my Patreon.
oh, you've done it on your Patreon. Wow.
I had a couple of different people. You weren't on that one, but I had to bring the heat for yours.
Yeah, I believe we call it lava.
Hmm.
But there's
It was smoldering.
well, interesting answer there, Wes. I'm not sure that I agree with it, but it does transition nicely into my next question, which is of those four faces on I believe you called it Mount Crapmore. Who would you least likely, excuse me, of those four faces on Mount Crapmore, who would you least like to be paired with in a rivals-esque season?
You.
Well, yeah, because I shouldn't be on the mountain anyways. Okay, crumple that question up, throw it in the trash can. Moving on. Okay, I mentioned Rivals, a classic challenge theme, and we haven't seen that in a while. But what we have seen is uh, the challenge universe really start to expand itself, taking the show global. Have you been watching these new seasons, and what are your thoughts on them in general?
I have been watching them and I like them. There's room for improvement, but it's a bunch of people doing something very challenging for the first time in their lives. And so there's going to be room for improvement. I think that it would be asking a lot to watch them do our game perfectly. And I personally find it a bit refreshing that it is all new people. And I really like
Mm,
that. It's sometimes like half rookies and half veterans is tough because the veterans just trounce the rookies and they don't really get a chance to get some good reps in. You know what I'm saying? It's good. And the
right.
whole like 100% rookies is pretty refreshing. I tried to explain this to Bananas actually recently, and it went right over his head because he's not very smart. But here's here's in my world, I'm a startup investor, and what we do is let's say I own 5% of a business, and we help them raise money when they go to sell part of their business to kind of get more cash to go bigger. We have to sell basically part of our 5% too. So what will happen is I might go from 5% to 3%, but the value of the business gets so much bigger that even though my number is lower, the worth of that three shares or whatever is worth a lot more.
Yeah, you're
And
talking about a more valuable, smaller slice of a bigger pie,
and
quantity over
that's
quality, or quality over
that's
quantity.
that's what I believe is happening with the challenge expansions, where my role in the machine that is the challenge is reduced because there's more roles, there's more people, it's on more channels, that kind of stuff. But I believe that the value that the universe provides to me and vice versa is more because it's just bigger.
Right.
And like I think it's not like it's in to any of the like true OG MTV fans who said like we still got there's still an MTV show, right?
Right.
If anything, there's also now All Stars, probably be in part because of the CBS spinoff show. So, if anything, we're already getting rewarded with extra content and extra seasons.
Mm,
And then just because no one from MTV was invited onto the first season of CBS does not mean that there won't be some kind of crossover at some point in the future. And so I think that we just need to trust in the challenge gods that they're the ones in the boardrooms having strategy sessions, doing what's right for the whole challenge universe. And in the pursuit of that, even though we have to share a little bit more, what we're sharing is worth so much more. And so, from a business perspective, it is a very good thing for all of us. And it's just, you can't, you would have a hard time understanding what I'm saying if you're very short sighted and insecure. And quite frankly, there are a lot of challengers that are short sighted and insecure, and they saw this as like a really big problem. And after I got a little bit of data, nothing like major, nothing more than the fans got, it felt I kind of came very quickly came to grips with like, oh, this is like actually a really good thing for everybody.
mm,
And it does like hit the ego a little bit because it's like it's ours, it's our channel, that kind of stuff. But if as long as you can put the ego in the closet and let your inner business person come out, it's like a very it's a much better thing in the long run for all of us, including and especially the fans, because now you've got different flavor. Like the All Stars is a very different type of show than the flagship, which is a very different type of show than CBS. And you can kind of pick and choose. I'd rather watch like one of these days. I'm going to have a family. I'd rather watch CBS with them, and
right.
I'd personally rather watch All Stars, and then if I'm really looking to like for the closest to the hardcore aggressive kind of sport and gritty, I'd watch MTV's. And so it's cool how essentially the same rules, the same game, the same name, the same host, the same platform, the same gist, the same production company is can be that have that different of a vibe strictly by the strategy behind the casting. And I love that. And I don't think that it was designed to have fans like all three.
No.
I think it was designed for you to pick your one or two that match your lifestyle the best or what you want to get out of it the most, and go from there. And I think that it's again like it's some people are having a hard time wrapping their head around that. Like, oh my God, they put something out that's like not exactly like what we've known, and it's like, yeah, so like,
Yeah, change is
like
good sometimes. And as you know, someone who benefited from a larger casting pool coming from Are You the One, and now I believe have made a foothold in the game myself. I think it does offer big opportunity, to people from other networks and from other shows and from other games to bring their skill set into, as you like to call, the greatest game on earth.
yep,
And I did that, believe it or not, with Are You the One. Like I had to originally convince my cast to allow me to win the game for them. They wanted to lose. And so that like little bit of I feel like manipulation for the greater good came in handy in the challenge. And I'm interested to see how Survivor players and how, more Big Brother players and those other CBS shows come into this game and use their tools from that show's tool belt to transition into this game, which is like no other game that anyone has ever played. Um,
it could only make it better.
it could
Like,
only make it better. And there is one thing though that has been coming up. that you actually made a very, I don't want to say viral, but I saw it on several different, I guess, platforms. A tweet of yours that I'm actually going to read verbatim and ask you to elaborate on a little bit here. And
Yeah.
it goes something like this. Um, Bitching about the living conditions on a show called The Challenge is literally the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my entire life. I kind of doubt that. I vote we make the
Yeah,
conditions
I've hung out with
worse.
you before.
Yeah,
you, you
I probably
say
haven't.
you say ridiculous things all the time.
That's true. It continues to say, I vote we make the conditions worse, the challenges harder, the finals longer, and you have to complete an athletic and IQ based combine to join. Now, that seems like a pretty good idea. You then went on to say, and I'll paraphrase here, it's kind of joining the challenge to just get on TV is like joining the UFC to get on TV and then being upset when you get knocked out and you don't become rich and famous. So can you just elaborate a little bit on your take there altogether? Because we are on opposite sides of this fence. I would like, a bed that fits a grown man and, potentially like,
Not me.
yeah,
Not me.
okay. So just
I
please, the
love
floor is yours.
waking up catty corner to you in a extra small twin size like piece of cardboard that we're sleeping on next to each other like that. That to me. So I think it's fair to say that it did go viral, and let me explain why. If you took every cast member from CBS and every tweet that they put out about the challenge from the moment the show aired to wherever we're at in present day, and you counted all the likes on all their tweets, accumulative throughout the entire season, it's less than that tweet got. I am both complimenting myself and insulting them because Twitter is a platform that rewards you for the words that come out your mouth. And
Hmm.
these guys aren't on my level yet when it comes to that. So, yes. Now, it was directed, I had watched this guy named Leo talk shit on the show. It was on Reddit, but I think he was doing it on his Instagram, but I saw it on
Hmm.
Reddit. So I was late by a couple of days, so it was kind of maybe harder for people to see who I was talking about. And I didn't like CC him because I was running out of characters, nor do I really care. Also, he was not the only one that's talked about the living conditions from that show. And like uh, you're signing up to go onto a show that is run by an ex special forces military man. And if
Mm.
you watch the seasons, any of them, they're brutal. And I think that just because you drone over a mansion and show a mansion does not mean that we're living the life of luxury. We're imprisoned. And I think it's so hard, especially for some of the survivor people, to kind of wrap their heads around what we mean by hard. Because they sit around and
Mm.
they want to immediately say, oh, well, we weren't fed. We lived on a beach. The living conditions were horrible. There were no living conditions, basically. And I'm not trying to compare them being starved to death, living outside, to what I'm not, it wasn't directed at Survivor. Like, so any Survivor person that felt some kind of way about the tweet is really just insecure. The overall difficulty of the challenge is definitely more difficult than Survivor.
100%.
And 100%. Now, I get that their living conditions are harder and getting starved is very, very challenging. But when you add in how much harder our games are, how much harder, it's not like the living conditions inside of the house are good. We're imprisoned. We've had people that have gone to prison on the challenge before. They say that the challenge is much harder than prison. And then we've also had Survivor people on the show now with us on the flagship, and they are like, listen, the overall and they haven't lasted very long, but those that have and that haven't even experienced the final yet are kind of like, okay, I kind of get it. This is harder,
It's
and
much longer too. I believe Survivor USA is 30 days.
it's
Uh,
I think it was 39 days, and it's
39 days.
and now it's been reduced due to in COVID times, I think, to like 29 or 30 or 32 days or something, and they
Yeah.
whatever. But that's
Those
neither
you
here
guys
nor
were
there.
in that, or they were in that bunker for I think it was 9 or 10 weeks. So like at that point, you're wrapping up Survivor at the halfway point of the challenge, which is
Yeah,
really, if you've played this game before and been fortunate enough to do well, which both of us have, that is actually when the game starts.
yeah.
Like getting to the halfway
Well,
point is
not
important.
not for me. I show up on I show up on day one of every show, and I'm immediately everyone's target because they want to ride my coattails. So yeah, I have to play a different game. You get to just show up
Yeah.
and just chill out for a little bit. You'll eventually make enemies out of people, and your game has to start halfway through. My game the whole
Right off the
time,
rip.
but right off the rip. And then you add in the fact that even though, yes, the living conditions are worse on Survivor, we're so much more experienced at mentally abusing those around us
Mm,
and
that
making them
is
all.
true.
And so we can make anyone we want miserable. In fact, one person can make 10 people miserable. We have these unfair skills at basically bullying people, is what it is. It's like a sister of bullying, and I'm not condoning bullying, but on the challenge you're allowed to do that.
Mhm.
Bullying in real life is really bad, but on the challenge it's just I
I
don't
don't
know.
know if
It's
I
a
would call it bullying as much as I would call it mental warfare. And I think both of us share a certain tactic, and it's not really even a tactic we have to deploy, but just existing, just us existing in having to have people coexist in that space with us for whatever reason. And maybe you don't put yourself here, so I'll just speak for myself. I just someone waking up and seeing my face can ruin their day.
yeah.
So if you're in that camp, if you don't like my jokes because they never stop coming, and I do relatively well in dailies, and I just wake up at 2 p.m. and then drink 14 beers. Like if you're not ready to get beat by that person, pretty much day in and day out, yeah, you're living in hell on earth. Because it doesn't make any sense to people either. They're like, wait a minute, how does this work? I think they expect to get beaten by more. They don't like it anymore. They hate when you win. They hate when you win. But just even in existing, we have
It
a
was a
leg up.
very it was the most quiet anyone's ever won this last, like, the complete and utter silence from the other challengers around the weeks that I finished my W was deafening.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I deserve. I mean, because I troll on the way down, I troll on the way up. I mean, it's like I deserve some of it, but a lot of it has to do with. Nah, I don't know. Nah, I'm about to just make it worse myself.
Well,
Sorry.
so to put a bow on it, what you're saying is if you're signing up for a show called the challenge, be prepared for it to be a challenge. It's not called the easy, and you want to lean into that idea and really start weeding people out that aren't ready to play that game.
And I know that you're like, "Oh, I'm on the other side of things." Like, you would rather, like, have a bigger, nicer bed, and you'd rather have better food and all that kinda stuff, but the reality is, when I say stuff like that, I'm not trying to weed out guys like you because you really do love the game, and
I'll do it. Yeah.
you're not there you're not there for the money. You're not there for the fame and to sell fit tees on Instagram. You're there because you love the game. And so what I'm kind of trying to do is, and don't get me wrong, I'd like the living conditions to be better as well. It's just, if I would rather be there with all people that are there to play the coolest game in the world hard, rather
Mm,
than people that are there for the wrong reasons. And if
right.
making the living conditions harder is what filters out the wrong people, then I'm all for it.
Mm, okay.
There's like, that's kind of what I'm going for. Like, I don't really care it like if it was super luxurious, that would be fine. But the problem is, if it was really luxurious, then you're going to be competing against people that are there to be famous, or there to because they think it's a get rich quick thing, or
Which
there
it
to, like,
isn't.
it's not.
No.
it can make you wealthy, and it can be a springboard to all sorts of other things. But it has to be one tool of many in your belt. Otherwise,
Mm.
you can't get rich off of it.
Well, that word Springfield and springboard, and I don't mean to cut you off here, but it's such a perfect little flow here that I'm going to go right into this because I firmly believe this. Now, I've played this game with hundreds of people. And you, to use a betting term here, have parlayed your success, and I'm going to say tenacity as a challenger into your actual life, and better than almost anyone who's ever played this game. Um, so, with that being said, you are producing and now starring in your very own reality competition show, The Blox, which season 3 has just aired. I want to know and let our audience know, for people that aren't familiar, what is the blocks and how have you used that tool belt that you're referencing from the challenge and brought that into the blocks and into your real life and have, you know, forced success onto yourself just by, essentially being tenacious and just not taking no for an answer. Like, I know you in real life, and you are just one of the most get after it guys I've ever known. Has it always been like that? And I guess, I'm rambling a little bit here, but what is the blocks, and how have you used those tools from the challenge to make that show as successful as it is?
Well, let's start with like I own what the world calls like a startup accelerator. I kind of like the word incubator a little bit more. Basically, it's like a school for startups where companies come to us that are formative, like basically they're 12 months old, somewhere in that range. They give us 5% ownership of their business, like so 5% equity. And in exchange, they get multiple years of classes, appointed mentors, access to investors, office space, a bunch of things designed to increase their likelihood of success. I've been doing that now for about 12 years. And through that platform, I've invested in over 300 different businesses. My portfolio last year did over $100
All
million
in.
in sales. And but equity is a very lucrative thing. As I sit here in my mansion. It wasn't paid for by the challenge, but yet it kind of was, and I want to give tribute in a fun way to the challenge because it's helped in multiple ways. So equity does not pay right away. Equity is like an 8, 9, 10 year thing, which is why I've had all these windfalls recently because I've been doing this for 12 years. And I wasn't even good at it the first couple of years. So it's almost like those don't even count. So it's like my shot clock didn't even start until the second or third year. And so um, what happened? I still had to eat. I had to put a roof
Right.
over my head. And so my version, and there's lots of startup people out there that have to go get side hustles and day jobs and stuff. My day job was I got to go on the challenge and earn enough money to barely survive for the year. So I could go on a challenge, take my stipend, a couple of other like MTV related things where I was basically work like, a part-time challenge gig, but then it would allow me 10-ish months out of the year to run BetaBlox without getting paid and without needing to take a salary in any way because there was no salary to take. It wasn't making money like a normal business was, at least at that point. So the challenge was my version of that day job. And so in a weird way, it was an investor in my business. And it was one of the reasons that I've been able to get this very, very risky, wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy type of business model. That it took just a long time for it to work, and the challenge is what gave me the runway to make it possible.
Right.
And I've always had to keep those two worlds separate because I can't. You don't want your reality star to be more successful than you. It makes you feel like shit. So
Yep.
I keep it kind of private from the fans. And you don't want your venture capitalist to be a reality star. And so I keep it now. People know to a certain extent, but I try and keep them separate, like a Clark Kent, Superman sort of thing. But over time, I
That's the
became
only analogy that I needed you to use. It's right there. It's the
well.
perfect one.
Hey, it is what it is. It's true,
Which
and
one's Superman?
the entrepreneurs probably. Um, you
Okay, so
know,
challenge Wes is Clark Kent.
yeah,
Okay, fair
yeah.
enough.
Clark Kent's still a good-looking, smart guy,
Fair
does
enough.
his thing, but Entrepreneur West can fucking fly,
Mm.
I've got a kryptonite here or there, but still,
Yep, there it is.
and yeah,
Is the
and
culmination of all that in this show called The Blocks? Like, have you where
okay,
you
so
really did
what I'm
pair
getting there.
those two things?
I became world class at both over the last 15ish years, where like I am one of the best television stars in the history of the genre. I know that sounds weird. It's true. And
We like
then
facts.
after you've invested in as many companies as I have, and worked with them side by side from the early days and figured out how to get more than a handful of these, like very successful from nothing, you become really, really good at entrepreneurship because a lot of entrepreneurs are really good, but they've got this one company, so they got good at one thing, right?
Mm,
Like NFL players or MLB players, really good at their position, which is what they're supposed to do, really good at a certain batter stance or at playing shortstop or whatever. Based on my role, I have to help every single position on the field, and because of it, I've become world class at all of them, which makes me one of the best kind of startup mentors and around the globe. And so I have these two like skills, and I'm like, if I'm the best at both of these individually, what happens if I combine them? And so that's what we did, where we made this web series called The Blox, where it's like it's a little bit like Top Chef, but for
mm.
startups, where they go through a series of classes and games and exercises and pitches. And I've got judges that rank them from first to last and everything that they do. The scoring is kind of derived in the same way that it is from the CrossFit games. The leaderboard jerseys and such is derived from like the Tour de France. And so I basically took all my favorite
Mm.
games, the challenge, the Top Chef, CrossFit games, Tour de France, and I took my favorite parts of those games and I turned it into this entrepreneurship kind of smorgasbord. And
And
we
it's
just
never
launched
been
our
done before, I wanna throw in there. This is, like, groundbreaking kind of reality in this sense that I don't know of another entrepreneurial, competition game show on planet Earth.
no, I mean, the closest thing is Shark Tank, and they deserve a lot of credit.
That's
And a
not
lot of
a season worth of the same people, though.
it's a phenomenal show that does its thing, but it's that's the closest thing to what we've done. And
Wow.
somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50,000 people are going to apply to the blocks this year.
Wow.
And there are we're going to launch season 4 to probably 600,000 or 700,000 views for the first episode here in a couple of weeks. That's like it just continues to grow. It's all available for free to watch either on Facebook Watch Series, or on our mobile applications on Android or iPhone. And it's a $250,000 custom built from the ground up app to kind of deploy that as well as a bunch of behind the scene content.
Mm.
I'm trying to take the exclusive aspect of what I do, which is deny most people that want to come and work with us, and break that down to where it is the most inclusive way to be educated as an entrepreneur in the world. All you have to have is access to Wi-Fi, and you watch our show and you watch the behind the scenes, and you'll get a realistic education on how to get a business off the ground in a way that a book or a podcast or a business school could never even touch.
Wow. Well, so I haven't seen. I watched the first 2 seasons, phenomenal. I haven't seen season 3, but I will be watching season 3. And I want to encourage everybody that's listening to this or watching this to also watch the Block season 3 and pick who you think's going to win. Right? This is a betting show. Let's pick who we're going to win on the blocks. Let's tweet about it. Let's get some engagement up for Wes. Let's give something back to him for giving us all of this. And that's what I'm going to be doing is picking my horse episode 1 of the Blocks 3, and you're going to see me tweeting about it here very shortly. And then I will be looking forward to season 4 as well. Now, with that being said, this is, as I mentioned, a betting show, and it would not be fair to everyone that's listening, giving us their hard-earned time, to let Wes go without some bets here. So, as a native Kansas Cityan, we've got to talk Chiefs football here, Wes.
I'm
The
ready.
NFL is right around the corner, as you know, I'm sure. And I'm sure, as you're aware, there are some questions surrounding your Kansas City Chiefs and a possible regression from one Patrick Mahomes. Thoughts on your 2022 Kansas City Chiefs and your quarterback, your Superman, Patrick
Mhm.
Mahomes?
So, other than little New England fan fuckboys in basements, is anyone actually saying that Patrick Mahomes is regressing? This is one of the youngest men in the league who takes care of his body better than anyone other than the Tom Brady. And he's got a natural amount of talent that he just continues to harness and mature. Where, what is are people studying his moves on Nintendo in the off season and saying he's regressing? Where are we getting these
So
data? Where are we getting these data points?
these data points are coming from a few places. Now, yes, of course, there's still favorites to win the AFC West. They're at plus 160. Which is
we
the
we
best
haven't lost the
odds.
AFC in like 7 years.
But there are we'll talk about the strength of the AFC, but
It's a
there is a
strong division.
glaring hole in losing Tyreek Hill and letting him
Let's
go to Miami, who's someone who
let's
can
talk
take the
about it.
top off the defense. So I guess the questions are maybe not a regression from Patrick Mahomes as a player, but that stat line surely is going to go down. And is he going to be able to win those close games without, a deep threat that can demand double coverage and free up other players like Kelsey and like Mahomes' legs to do the damage that they've done in the past? That's what we're hearing out here in sports in sports betting talk world, which is how is
Um,
he going to be without Tyreek Hill for the first time? And we don't have an answer to that.
Well, we kind of do because we've demolished every team in the first quarter of all three of the preseason games. So there's a little bit of data. Okay.
We're
And
not
then,
taking preseason as an
yeah,
argument here,
yeah,
are
yeah.
we?
And then, no. And then, you know what? We basically, like, Tyreek Hill's stock got too expensive for the Chiefs. And we made a very challenging short-term decision with long-term benefits of that where replaced him and we diversified. We did what a good stock manager does. It's like, okay, you've got a really good singular stock, but that could plummet at any point in time. Let's sell that one stock and then put the value in like six other people's. And so we now have a much deeper, and like, let's also remember Tyreek Hill isn't a wide receiver. He was forced to become one. We're now putting instinctual actual wide receivers in those places. And Tyreek Hill, obviously very good. You can't take anything away from the guy, and he is the fastest man in the NFL
Cheetah.
and one of the fastest men in the world. Like, he would be an Olympian if it wasn't for the NFL. And it's just, what how because of how much attention he was getting by the other teams. We weren't even able to throw him the ball all that much,
I mean,
and
his stats beg to differ there. He was
well, because he had all these breakout plays, which is what gets him the stats. But you weren't able to throw him the ball that much. But what he would do is he was just a constant decoy, and because he was in really good shape and really fast, and almost every time that we had a play, he was out doing weird stuff to confuse them, and then we'd throw the ball to fill in the blank somebody else.
yeah, to
Like,
fill in the blank somebody else. So I guess what you're saying is you're not concerned about the Chiefs this season, which makes me want to ask you
oh, we're gonna be better. We're
their
gonna be
team
better.
total is set at 10 and a half. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you think that the Chiefs are going 11 or more wins, or you think they're going 10 or under?
Oh, 11 or more.
Wow. He's
Easy. Like,
hammering the Chiefs over. I knew this was gonna
you,
happen.
I'm bullish on the Chiefs, and I think, as a betting show, y'all need to be paying attention to me because I am an internationally renowned genius, as we've also discussed on this show. So I would be I would be betting alongside me. Now, granted, the Chiefs have similar to me in the challenges. I might be the best, but I also show up with the most attention and the most targets on my back.
Fair.
So the Chiefs has a lot of, like, all the other teams, they sit back and they take a little off the top against each other, knowing that they have to hold back and their eyes are set on the Chiefs. So every single time we go into somebody else's stadium, they're ready. They have to bring their absolute A game. Then you add in the fact that the AFC is
Oh
the
God.
strongest division in the National Football League. And we have, I'm not saying that we've got an easy road. We never have an easy road. It's like Wes Bergmann on the challenge.
I mean,
But Wes
Broncos,
Bergman,
Raiders, Chargers, that the AFC West is stacked.
yeah, yes, very much so.
They're
And
absolutely stacked. But it sounds like you're hammering the over. You're not worried about Patrick Mahomes. You're taking
not in the
Chiefs
least bit.
11 or more wins. I mean, are you willing to predict a Kansas City Chiefs AFC West championship? Are we going to see them in the Super Bowl this year?
I was about to say I'm not going to do the AFC thing. I'm going to say right off the bat, the likelihood that we win the Super Bowl is probably 45%.
Wow. Well, Vegas
Yeah.
disagrees, having them at plus 1100. So you might want to hop on that line before some people listen to this and drive the value down there. Let me ask you one more thing, Wes, before we will let you go, because you have given us more time than I could have ever asked for. Thank you so much for being here. Now, I do need to know, again, as a Kansas City native that is now high on the Chiefs, as we have heard.
Oh, I know where this is going.
I need to know your thoughts on the spectacle that is Jackson Mahomes and his ability to take eyes in a good way off of the Chiefs and put them on them in a bad way. Are we going to
Yeah.
have more Jackson Mahomes moments, and will that affect your Superman again, Patrick Mahomes? It's got to, in my mind. What are your thoughts here?
I don't think this is one of those, I don't think you can handle the truth type
Do you
moments.
like do you like Jackson Mahomes?
I am going to blow your mind right now.
God.
Are you ready?
Fire away. Well, wait, hold on. Let's build this up a little bit. This because this will be a good clip. What you're telling me is that you've got a lava take on Jackson Mahomes that's going to blow my mind.
I'm actually 100% sure that the Chiefs don't want me to tell you guys this because it is a secret.
Wow. Drum roll, please. Cue that in post. Wes, give us the take. Hit us with the lava. I need to know.
I'm actually going to get a call from Andy Reid and like after this airs about why I discuss this with you. But I think that there's going to be fuckboys such as yourself that don't believe what I'm about to say. But here it is. Do you think that if Jackson Mahomes was distracting to Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid, that they wouldn't sit them down and get it to stop? Do you not think that and you could physically stop it by just stop giving him those seats? Like it's not like
I don't know if they have a choice.
No, they do. You want to know who it's distracting to? Guys like you.
I
People
knew
on the
this
other
where this
team.
going. This is horseshit.
He is literally a mole getting inside, living rent free in all of you people across the internet's fucking heads, including the other team. And while the other locker room is sitting there talking shit about Jackson Mahomes, which is, by the way, a free man on our roster, right? He's fucking with all your all's heads. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes is in the locker room meditating on plays that he's going to then send out to his diversified receivers.
Wow, his new receiving core. This is an elaborate scheme.
It's not that elaborate. It is very straightforward, and it
To
is
wrap
working.
this up, Wes thinks Jackson Mahomes' antics are a decoy to fuckboys like me. If that's not a lava take, I don't know what is. And we started high, we got to finish high. That is about that's about as unique a take as I've heard on Jackson. And I'm gonna be interested to watch how this one plays out. So
every time you see his ass dancing on a sideline, understand that is meant to distract people like you.
I hope that you didn't just let the cat out of the bag, because it might be tough to walk around the streets of Kansas City if that is in fact true, and you have let us all in on your biggest secret. Because I don't think anybody globally has put that one together just yet. That is an outstanding take, and we have hit our hour mark here. Wes, you've given us just more time again than I could have ever hoped for, with a 3-time challenge champion, with a winner at life, with somebody that I am so lucky to consider a true friend. We really appreciate you, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to take great joy in watching the demise of your Kansas City Chiefs this season, and I hope that you all let Wes know about it on Twitter, because we know that's where he likes to do most of his business. So, Wes, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Check out the Blox Season 3, the Blox Season 4, airing soon. That is Mr. Weston Bergmann, 3-time challenge champion. Wes, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Bye.